And yeah, you can go ahead. I'll change my name, put MD so he knows it's. Let me edit name. And if need be, I'll intervene. If no need, depending on how the focus shifts here. And, okay.
Sure.
James, I'm just going to and
Okay.
You're going to be okay?
Okay. Do you think you have a blacking? Okay. Okay. Perfect. Thanks, Mitch. Bye-bye. Okay. So, looks like we got our guys on the line here.
Hey, can you guys hear me clearly?
Yes.
Okay, just making sure. Yeah, you drive here. I'm just getting on in case because he's a IT and he's a IT director. So.
Okay, got it. Okay. Just going to my slides here.
You said they think it's a maximum of 30 days.
Okay, and Paul Clayton, Glasgow. And let me see if we got a phone number for him in case he didn't. Okay, good idea. Oh, it's not 9 yet. All right. Okay, let's see. He's the VP of Supply Chain and Logistics, 30 years experience in logistics, 17 customer different products, never experience I've never.
All right, James. Here I think Paul has joined us.
Paul? Okay. Let's see, dialing in still. Paul?
Hello? Hello?
Yes.
Paul, good afternoon. How are you?
Yeah, I'm doing fine, thanks.
Good. Well, thanks a lot for joining us today. Are you alone, or is there anyone joining you?
I'm alone. I'm having a very hard time hearing. It's coming through about 3 times.
Okay.
I opened up the equivalent of OCS, the online meeting, and I don't know why I can't see anything or hear you guys.
Huh. Okay, so you can't see the screen. I've got
I can see the screen.
Okay.
But I mean, normally these would just come up and I can hear you.
Huh.
I'm not on mute or anything. I mean, it should work. But anyway.
Okay. Can you hear me okay?
I can.
Okay.
I dialed in.
Okay, got it. You can hear via the computer.
Yes.
Okay. I've got Paul. Let me introduce who's with me on the line. I've got one of our advisors is actually a physician. His name is Dr. Haddad, and he's on the line just in case, especially with pharmaceutical companies, if there are any questions that come up related to regulatory issues. He's always a great resource for us. And I've also got Patrick, who's one of our senior technical people. So with that being said, not sure if you had a chance to review the website, but before we do that, we always like to know a little about who we're talking to. Obviously, SmithKline is pretty straightforward in terms of what you do, but maybe you can spend a minute and talk about your experience with web analytic tools and what you're all using currently.
Well, I'm not going to go through what we normally use or what we use here, but we have used web analyst tools for quite some time.
Okay.
It depends which country we're in the world, so we don't always use the same tool worldwide.
Got it.
But we have been using them for quite a while.
Okay, got it. Fair enough, fair enough. Okay, well, let me start the real brief presentation and then we'll answer some questions. We are the innovators, inventors of a new technology, which essentially is what we call a live customer interaction. Their mouse movements, but we're also giving you exactly what it looks like on their device. One of the things we found is that usability is becoming more and more of an important issue, especially on mobile phones. And so to be able to have a very clear sense of what exactly the customers are seeing is becoming more and more of an important issue for people that are putting large amounts of data and are trying to be more productive with their websites.
So what would you actually look at? So give me a specific example. I mean, I can see it, and that's fine. But it'd be helpful to know what what folks are putting in either their phone or their iPad or their whatever.
Okay.
I mean,
so in this case, on the mobile phone, you can see that someone's inputting text right now. So this is giving you exactly. Not only the text they typed in, but exactly how they did it. So if they typed in, Bob went to and then misspelled it and went backwards and redid it again, or it's giving you literally every data point of that entire web experience. So you're getting the total bird's eye view about everything they're doing.
But that would only be for the web they're on, so you wouldn't have access to everyone's web.
Well, no, it would when I say everyone's, it would be your website.
Yeah. Okay, that's fine.
Yeah. So.
You're not intruding on their personal information, is my point. So if they're on a GSK website, or if they're at a doctor's website or whatever, then you would have access to that. But that's all.
So you're correct. Let me say that obviously all of our software is built in with all the blocking protocols that you need. So obviously, you're not going to want to store or collect credit card information, social security numbers, and whatever you want to deem to be sensitive data, you can block out and it won't record it. Okay. So on the one hand, obviously the data is important, but we want to build this to be respectful to different industries and the sensitivities are involved in that. So now, obviously, we're collecting a tremendous amount of data. The question now is what to do with the data. Well, typically what we do or customers do is take that data and tag and segment it. So in this case, somebody's coming. So obviously Glaxo worldwide, I'm sure, involves a lot of different types of websites and a lot of different functionalities. But maybe for the demonstration purposes here, maybe you could give me an example of a couple of websites and how your customers tend to use them.
Well, I mean, it depends where the customer is. So in the U.S., I mean, a customer would use a GSK website to see whether there is product availability.
Okay.
They would use a website to see if there are other products that have a similar nature that they could go talk to a doctor about, as an example. If it's a prescription drug. If it's a consumer drug, they wouldn't be doing that. They would be looking at where it's maybe the closest to where they are during the circumstances. They may be traveling or they may be at home, but at least usually at home they wouldn't go on the web. They just go to their local drugstore pharmacy or whatever.
Okay.
But quite often it's used when people are moving, traveling, vacationing, doing whatever, and are not sure where they can find things.
Okay. Okay. So in this case, typically what the benefit to most of our customers is looking for and really following high-value customers or high-value targets. So, for example, let's say that you had, people that are ordering product, distribution folks or drugstores, whoever typically orders your product. Now, can they transact that product online too, or do they typically just check on inventories and then send a PO into you, or how does that typically work?
Again, it depends on the country. If you're in the U.S., they can do it online.
Okay. Okay. So in this case, just again, to kind of flesh out an example, let's say that they're at the GK site and they're looking at a cancer drug or something like that, and they want to order it. This gives you the ability to target your high value folks that come to the site. They're looking at product, to understand their behavior, to understand the circumstances where they may have looked at the product, may even start to fill it out, and maybe abandon it. Abandonment, typically, especially for transactional websites, is a huge issue. So, understanding, people's process, how they got to the site, the steps they took to get to where, they're ready to order product now, and where they're falling out of that process, and or why they're abandoning it are, huge. That's immediately, obviously, from a business point of view, the low-hanging fruit, people that come to order product that don't. So in our case, every person that comes to the website is an individual session. So if you come to the website, you leave 5 minutes later, you come back, that's a separate session. And we have the ability to capture all those sessions as individual files that can be reviewed, so you can understand their process. So for example, let's say we want to tag everybody that came to the site to order product that abandoned the process. You might want to go through some of the videos or generate an analytic from it so that you understand what's going on. Are they abandoning the process because maybe to be out of your website. Any questions on that?
Well,
sure, please.
In fairness, I mean, if I'm ordering a laptop or I'm ordering a phone or I'm ordering something that's available to anybody and anybody can order it, I can understand what you just said, and that made a ton of sense.
Okay.
But I mean, we're talking about products that I can't go and order a cancer-saving product for me. I have to go to a doctor, and they either give me a prescription, or sometimes they would put it in electronically. Now, if they're giving me, I'm just using an example. If they're giving me 12 scripts, so say, one per month for 12 months, just to use that as an example. Okay. The doctor can put through that, and then I can go online, post the time that they've said it's okay for me to get it, and I can go in every month after that and order it online and have it delivered to my house or have it delivered to a pharmacy or whatever. Depends what the product is. Okay, so that's a little different than if I'm, buying a chocolate bar from Walmart.
Got it. And in fairness to you, that's correct. The point of these videos is just to be able to capture specific segments that are important to you, that you want to understand their behavior and any of the reasons why your website might not be allowing people to complete whatever transaction they're undertaking, and that you want them to complete. So if whether that's putting script in or even from an informational point of view, I mean, there are people that keep conversion or try to understand conversions, even if it's not ending in a transaction, but more the flow of the process, right? How are people responding to your site? Are they getting the kind of information they need? One of the issues with a medical center that we had recently was their site's purely informational, but one of the some of the feedback that they felt like they were getting from people was our site is cumbersome. We're not able to get where we need to go. People seem to be frustrated. So usability is really, really important. And that seems to be one of the more driving terminology, I think, amongst web people is how do we make our site more useful? How do we make it better? How do we make it flow better? How do we better understand the way people traverse over our site? A website's like a piece of real estate. You want to have people flow through your home in a certain way that's more productive and is more beneficial to both you as a site provider and them as a customer or as someone that's in the informational mode.
Right.
So so that's the purpose of it. Obviously, not everybody's necessarily buying a chocolate bar, but there are different modalities of that. But in the end, understanding their processes and getting your site to be more productive is obviously something that people are getting more and more involved in. This may or may not apply to you, but again, this is part of our technology. We have a live component, so you have the ability to see what people are doing in real time live on your site. And for folks again that either have high value folks online that they want to maybe communicate with via live chat. If you had maybe someone that was in a certain area of the site that you wanted to that was you deemed as high value, or something that was really important. Maybe you wanted to communicate with people that had real specific questions about cancer drugs or certain things like that. This is your ability to tag those people, target them, and either chat with them live or have a drop-down screen to communicate with them, where they can get the product from, or any late information that might be relevant, especially maybe certain segments of people. It's basically, again, another way to be able to interact with people in real time.
Okay.
Here, next I'm going to, just as a sidebar here, let me move this out of the way. One of the issues, obviously, with handhelds these days, too, is the ability to understand finger movements. So we've got that ability now. That's an emerging technology and something that's very important, but this gives you a sense that we can track all the movements, too, in addition to mouse and keystroke movements.
James, if you can please refresh the screen there to show the point.
Sure. Hang on one second. Yeah, let me do that. So this just gives you a sense that you get a sense of, again, how they're traversing via finger movements over their mobile. And this is a brand new technology, one that's going to become more and more important as people switch more and more of their data collection to mobile phones. Mm-hmm. Here is our analytic tool. We have the ability to, when I say customize it, there's so much data that's available via our data collection. And let me just say this, because we're able, and this may sound like kind of a crude analogy, but if someone comes in an apartment and they're breaking in and you've got a motion detector, you get a sense of what rooms they were in, and you're able to collect that data when they left. If you've got a video recording, you've got an immense more amount of data, what shoes they were wearing, what color hat they were wearing, etc. Our ability to capture via data point all of the customer's movements, interactions, keystrokes, yields a tremendous amount of data for us. So we have the ability to basically to categorize that for you, tag it, segment it, and via our engines, develop whatever type of analytics you want. So while this screen represents sort of the kind of standard analytic tools that people want, we have the ability to give you exactly what you want via this screen as a way of having a simple snapshot of the type of transactional or analytic numbers that you deem important. I mean, so just for argument's sake on this, obviously we've got a change in customer traffic, amount of time people spend on the site, bounce rates. This is an important distinction: the amount of mobile versus desktops, social research. People if they complete forms, traffic site breakdowns, social references, website, traffic via day, week, monthly, entry domains, how they got there, via what type of engine, key search words, search engines, etc. But again, we this is our standard screen, but we can if you want to have a screen, based on how many, people went to this specific page and, clicked on this link a certain number of times, that can be part of this screen also. So we're able to customize however you'd like. Conversion funnels, I don't know if you all are using those, but that's becoming a really more and more important process of really understanding your web traffic. So obviously, in your case, maybe somebody comes to the home page, they look at the research page, partnership page, and if there's either a form to fill out or they can join Facebook or Twitter or however, whatever that flow, that process is. The key in the end is to understand, this is the starting point, this is where we want them to end up, and here are the steps in between, so that we can understand where people are falling out of the process. If you've got people, there to research type of cancer drugs, with the end result being that they're going to click more information or contact you or whatever those steps are, you have the ability to understand where in that process they're falling out or what their behavior is as they go through that process. So maybe as step 2 part of that process, people tend to maybe go to the second page about cancer research and they quit reading about it or they don't continue on that process. It gives you the data and the information to be able to make changes. So again, we're back to making the site more usable, giving people what they want, so that the ultimate point is that they're going to go to their doctor and request the drug that you want, or make more inquiries. Again, getting data they need so that they can continue down the path that you like them to.
Okay.
So that is in essence sort of just, we always initially just do a brief overview. Obviously in a first call, we don't want to try to go too deep, but we just want to give you an overview of some of the site functionalities. One last tool that we have that might be of interest here. Do I have it up? Yes. Okay. So,
I actually had James. There's just one point. I think a pretty big point here was missed, Paul, on these when we're discussing these data capabilities. The point here is if someone was on your site, in the example you cited as a patient filling out the information on a website, if the patient wrote the word help on a specific text form, we would be able to create that as an individual metric to be stored every time, just like a normal metric such as page views, etc. If a patient struggled for 20 seconds on the corner of your site, on a macro-based level, we would be able to tag and segment all of the similar sessions to create a key point indicator and customer dissatisfaction to achieve the objective that you had outlined. It's not just about profit. So the point in your case, the end goal would be to reduce the time for servicing resolution. So let's reduce the time it takes for a customer to fulfill the action you referenced by 5% in each instance, which obviously with companies that are talking big numbers can have a very significant effect on the bottom line. So those were just when we were talking about the data reference. The point is your KPIs are going to be different per company. We have a much deeper microscope and much more precise engine to define those to more depth and detail than just what happens on a page-to-page transition. I just wanted to clarify those points. I don't think, in case there was some confusion.
No, that was good. That was a good way to explain it. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Yeah, I would like to add one more feature. This is Dr. Haddad here talking. Just want to say, we understand for pharmaceutical companies, your customers are not necessarily only patients who are ordering medications or seeking information. Of course they can do that, but your customers are also pharmacies and doctors like myself, as well as hospitals or partners, centers, healthcare centers, etc., health department. And lots of time, of course, they access, like I do, for example, they access pharmaceutical websites to try to find information about new drugs or find about any publications about drug resources, etc., or try to call representatives and features like that. And all that, I look at it as the recording part, for example, as if it was a black box. So you have black box that is used for aviation. So you have an exact record that you can refer to document the fact that this was on the website. This is what that individual or what that organization was able to look at and what kind of interaction they had. So if I went as a physician on your website, for example, and was looking for side effects of you know, a diabetic medication or asthma medication, etc., and I encountered difficulties or misunderstood, you know, what was implicated. In pharmaceutical industries and research, etc. This is, and in healthcare in general, this is one of the main important features that we have. So go ahead, Pat or James.
So what part of our feature set, we really did two parallel products. One was the live customer interaction requirements, and also is our digital competitive intelligence platform. So in essence, as you can see kind of from the screen there, just like this screen I showed you earlier, it's basically a great dashboard for understanding what your competition's doing. So it's basically a dashboard like this. And the dashboard is going to provide you with competitive numbers as far as competitors' traffic, changes to the website via keywords, key phrases, content. It's going to give you the breakdown of social references. People come via Facebook or LinkedIn or any reference site. It's basically going to give you a very nice, simple dashboard that you can list all your competition and really get a quick overview on what site traffic and relevant information that's going on to help you stay abreast of what they're doing and obviously be able to translate that into information for your site.
James, can you please go to the home page there to explain this a bit clearer? I think the example, nothing's readable from this view. Please go to the home page, James. Apologize, Paul. This is going to make a lot more sense. Move down to the middle, please, of the home page.
Okay.
And activate the link that actually shows a sample deliverable. On the left, right there under 360 view, up, left. Now left, please, James, right there. To the left of where you are, there's a chart.
Okay.
Right there. Click there.
Okay. Okay, great. So,
Paul, would you mind? Yeah, if I took another shot at that, if you don't mind, to clarify, I know you had a couple questions, Paul, was the premise of this is, in this example, you would highlight 3 key competitors. We would be monitoring traffic rank and updating this on a weekly basis. We would be monitoring traffic rank based on a couple external mainstream resources when it comes to internet research who have pretty close estimates based on the traffic of your competitors. If you had a competitor with a 40% increase in traffic in the last month, we would also be storing the changes in source code, such as if they had 500 more Facebook likes this last month, if they had a change in headlines, and you'd understand the correlations between creating the traffic, why it happened, and what changes were made on your competitor's end. That's what this chart was here to, I suppose, to demonstrate. On the bottom,
but
go ahead.
I understand that. The question I would have, though, is, I mean, if you folks got all of our data, you're going to show our data to the competitors as well.
Yeah, the big answer there is we're not actually tracking this data. This is a lot different than our analytics product. What we're doing here is we're doing the same thing as Google does, essentially, where, yes, we are storing the homepage of every website on the internet, yours as well. We don't have any specific information for the activity that's happening on the website. So if you were a client that has, this is completely mutually exclusive from what we're showing from this dashboard. We're storing information the same way Google does in a much larger website index than they have, and then correlating the changes made on their site the same way that if you guys changed a headline from cow to pig on your homepage, Google would reflect that keyword change as well when you searched. So that's what we're doing. It's not intrusive. It's not showing what customer activity. It's just showing what's happening on your website from a public domain. So we're not digging as deep as the analytics portion.
Okay. That's good. Thanks.
That makes, yeah, I hope so. That's what we hear from a lot of, when we're doing both of these angles and we reference doing things for every site on the internet versus recordings. It's completely different products. So on that note as well, the industry on the bottom left, the premise here of industry, usual deliverable for an enterprise such as yourself, you would highlight your key competitors. You would also define your industry. Let's say you said my competitors are websites using technology on their website on a macro level basis. That's the the benefit of the industry page, to say, hey, people are using this new XYZ technology in my industry that came out a year ago. I have automated awareness to not be left in the dark and stay ahead of my competition, and also benchmark in situations such as page load speed, benchmark how I compare to my competition to make sure we're doing things correctly. So it's all about having a step 1, the step 2 through 10 is digging deeper within your organization.
Okay. A couple of questions, if you don't mind.
Please.
Multiple languages?
Yes.
So how many?
As far as I know, we have a translation mechanism that goes, I might have to get back on you firmly. As far as I know, we have at least 10 to 20, I would say, the most mainstream, but I can't verify without digging deeper about how many more than that. So.
Okay, no, that's fine. I mean, you've got more than one, and it's more than 2. So I mean, you're getting well. When you're a global organization like we are, we need to have multiple languages. So that's why the question. The other thing is, if someone was to go implement this, 2 parts to it. One is how long would it take, and B, how much?
Well,
they're obvious two things I should ask. So.
Yeah, obviously. So, yeah, so from an implementation, for a normal size, our minimum implementation time is 3 weeks. Our maximum time is 9 weeks. That's usually the window you're looking at, where the protocol on our end would be, you would add a piece of code to your site. From there, we would have to customize the video display and make sure everything, basically do Q&A analysis to make sure everything is showing up properly.
So it's from 1 to 2 months.
Correct. Yeah, to keep it really simple. 1 to 2 months. 9 weeks is the most we would go. So I'd say then that's, of course, after. In your case, we would have to sign NDAs both ways. We would need to do a few, have a couple chats before we begin that period as well. So.
No, I understand. I just said if we decide to go and everything's signed and you know what you need to do and we know what we want, then we're still talking a month or 2.
Yes, correct.
Okay.
Pricing, the big cost is variable based on website traffic. A ballpark there would be $5,000 for 1 million page views per month. So it's based on variable website traffic, because our hard cost is the amount of data records stored.
Right.
Aside from that, we have a setup cost, which usually is between 30 to 40 hours at a $250 an hour rate. And to be perfectly honest, for your company is going to probably want more specifications than the norm. We have the in-house capabilities, such as if you wanted your visual data records integrated with a few different dashboards you're already using, that's going to add on to that number. But 30 to 40 is the norm on setup time, and that's usually, once we're set up, you really don't need much maintenance internally.
Okay. All right.
Okay. Any other questions?
No other questions. I mean, it's it certainly is of interest, and I think you're certainly, I would suggest, slightly ahead of the curve, if not more ahead of the curve than some, which is great. Okay. I think for you and potentially for us. What would be best, because this is much more linked to the end customer and much more linked to well, I would say our commercial business as opposed to our manufacturing business. Okay. I know there are links back and forth in between the two, but this is much more attuned on the commercial side. So it would be helpful for me to have, I'm a simple presentation guy. If you can send me like 5, 6, maximum 7 slides, with a couple of names, contact information via email. It would be helpful to put the timelines, just again, 1 to 2 months is fine. Put in, and the rough estimation of cost, you can say it will be more than, and it will likely be less than. You know, just make round numbers.
Okay.
What I will do then is communicate that to some of the senior commercial people, and I would communicate it to them first, just saying we've had a chat. I'll reinforce that I think it's important that they look at the email, and then they would likely contact you directly if there's an interest. Okay. I would say realistically, I'm being honest, realistically, because this is obviously the beginning of a new year, folks are pretty slammed right about now until realistically about the end of February, it might be middle of March. Okay. So you may not hear back from anybody for a month.
Okay. Okay, so a couple questions then. So you, just to understand your internal process, so you work with some other players in different groups. You would send this info out to them, and we'd hear back from them within probably 2 to 4 weeks. It sounds like. Yeah,
you would hear back. You would hear back from them rather than me, I would suspect,
okay.
Because I'm a senior person on the manufacturing side of the business,
okay.
but deal directly with the commercial side on a regular basis.
Okay. Okay. One sidebar question, which is obviously with very large organizations, there are people that represent different business units, etc. Is your gaze into all the different business units, or is it strictly manufacturing? In other words, would there be some other people we should consider engaging with in different business units, or we don't want to be repetitive if you cover all the primary folks, but maybe you can give us some guidance on that.
Yeah, I mean, I would leave me as a single point of contact till they get hold of you directly.
Okay.
What I commit to you is I will send it to the senior commercial people.
Got it.
I know them all, so
okay.
it's fine.
Okay.
And I would also send it to probably not 1 but 2 senior IT people,
okay.
Since they're heavily engaged in what we need to do to move forward,
okay.
which is obvious. I will do that.
Okay. And then lastly, the process itself is we engage with these people, and then do they each sort of have their own, fiefdoms to pull the trigger, or does it all come back as a group to you and a team, or how's the process of how does that kind of process work?
Well, again, when they get into the details of which countries could utilize this, I mean, again, it'll come down to language.
Okay.
If the timelines to implement are roughly the same regardless of the language, and if this cost is going to be roughly the same, then it might come back as one thing.
Okay.
If it's going to be, we have 5 major regions globally. Okay, so the most it would be is 5, but I expect normally we would combine the Americas normally with Europe, so they would be combined into one. The Asia Pac area might be a separate unit. It might. I'm not sure. We'd have to see. And then they'd have discussions mainly around what we do in some of the other areas like Africa as an example, and Middle East. Okay.
Okay. Well, on that note, hey, really appreciate your time. We'll get you some links and slides and some info so you can pass it on to your people internally. I guess if we don't hear back from anybody, say within 3 or 4 weeks, to circle back with you, would that be appropriate?
That's fine, but in fairness, I would wait.
Okay.
Wait until the middle of March.
Okay.
And I expect you will hear from one,
okay.
or
more.
You may hear from several. That
okay.
might drive you nuts too. But
got it. Okay.
Well, we know how the game works. Yeah, we're fine with that.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay. Well, again, hey, really appreciate your time, and we'll get some info to you, and have a great afternoon.
Okay, you as well. Thanks very much.
Sure. Bye-bye now.
Thank you, Paul.
Bye-bye.
Okay. Well, I think this is the best call we have had so far, in my opinion. I think this is a huge potential. This is an enterprise, global, multinational. This guy understood what we are talking about. He realized immediately that this is something no one else has, and the drug companies are very, very competitive. So let's play it right. This week, I want, like he said, simple presentation, 5-6 pages. I'll work with Patrick.
Yeah, we're doing it today. That's
yeah, let's do it and clearly.